Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us for another edition of our digital experience management sessions. My name is Domenic Ali, and I am your host today. I am from WSI, and today I have a great guest with us. Her name is Christina Pilarski, and she is from CIPR Communications. I'm very excited to have her here today. Christina is a communications and business specialist. I'm just going to read off my notes here, so excuse me. There's a lot to read. So Christina has been in the communications business for over 15 years. She works with clients of all sizes, and she's a trusted advisor on today's topic. She is a trusted advisor on CASL compliance, and this is why I'm so happy to have her here today. She is actually indeed one of the people that we call when we have questions around compliance for CASL and any other GDPR and things like that. But the other thing is, when Christina doesn't have the answer, she knows exactly where to find it, or she'll put us in touch with the people who do. So this is great to have her here today. Just a little bit about CIPR. CIPR does help their clients to tell their story. They're actually a brand awareness. I'm going to get her to kind of give us a little bit more about that. And I'm pulling her up on the screen now, and I'm going to turn on her mic. But CIPR helps clients tell their story, to communicate, to create great communications and marketing brands strategies, and to help with their brands. And this is why I shouldn't speak about or do any communications here, because I suck at it. So Christina, hi, and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. I'm excited to chat with you this morning.
All right, Christina, you know, because I completely destroyed that introduction of CIPR, can you tell our viewers a little bit more about CIPR properly?
Sure. So CIPR is me and my husband's company. We run it together, and we focus on communications and marketing. Like you said, we are in the business of creating great campaigns that tell businesses stories to increase their brand reputation and awareness, and then also help them generate leads.
Awesome. This is so exciting. And thank you again for joining us today. It's great to be able to provide business owners of all sizes and marketing advisors with the advice that we bring together on this show. So today's topic is CASL compliance. And I guess the first two-part question I'd like to ask of you is, tell us, what is CASL compliance and why is it so important?
Right. So CASL, I'm sure it comes up in meetings for you, Domenic, because you're talking to clients, but really it stands for Canadian anti-spam legislation. So it's the rules about not sending spam. I think when it came into play in 2014, there was a lot of panic and almost hysteria, especially for smaller business owners as they tried to figure out, okay, am I allowed to email this person or am I not? But still today, I think that there's some misinformation out there about how to do it right and how to do it accurately. Really, if you dumb it down even further, CASL compliance is just about making sure you're sending people emails that are appropriate and that are to the appropriate list.
Emails that are appropriate and to the appropriate list. Tell us a little bit about the list. Can I just go out and buy a list or create a list? Like, how does that work? I have 200 contacts in my, personal contact database. It's just people I email all the time. Is that considered a list?
I wish it was. That's considered your personal list. I think what I would like to see at this instant is, I think, in North America, we can often get confused between US and Canada. So This is Canadian anti-spam legislation. And in the States, there's this real opt-out. So yes, if we were talking to a US audience, you can buy lists and you can email people and you can kind of go through that piece. In Canada, we believe in opting in. I feel like this is our polite nature as Canadians.
Very nice.
But so opting in means you need someone's expressed consent. So what that means is that somebody has actually, in writing, been explicit to tell you that, yes, you can email them. I think in your case with, as we talk about the big contact list that you do have, you probably have implied consent. So the legislation talks about implied consent is something, you've done a business transaction with them. So potentially your clients, or if you work in photography, it's potentially that list that you've built of all the people you've taken photos of in the past. You've implied to them that, hey, we're going to receive emails from me. And so maybe that's fair game. Could be too that you've got a business card from them at a conference, and I always say you never give a business card out if you don't intend someone to send you a note afterwards.
Right.
So really, there's some implied consent there. The thing about implied consent, though, is that you have to be actively seeking out expressed consent. So that means that, after I've gone to that conference, or maybe it's once a quarter, I email all of my new clients and say, hey, can you click this button and make sure that you still want to be part of my email list?
Oh, very nice. Okay, so let's go back to that business card example for a second. So a lot of us who are actively prospecting collect business cards. And we want to bring them home and add those to our database and start adding them to a nurture list. Sorry. If I wanted to just email the 5 people personally, does that fall under CASL compliance, or is it only if I send marketing-like email?
If you're emailing them one-on-one and it's a personal message between you and that person, then that's just an email. That's not something that's going to fall into CASL compliance. I think this is, back to 2014 when the hysteria started. People got nervous even about this. But
right.
You're just emailing that person, you have their business card, and you're emailing, hey, great to see you, following up with whatever I told you I'd follow up with, or following up to book this meeting, then no. If you're going to throw them into your email, kind of that mass email newsletter list right away,
right.
Then yes, you definitely need to seek out further consent from them.
Okay, so let's talk about opting in. And one of the things that I'd like to bring up to people is the concept of a double opt-in. Can you walk us through what an opt-in looks like? You gave us a couple examples already, but let's talk about that.
Yeah, so opt-in is really that little checkbox. So at the bottom of your website where you have sign up for our newsletter, you have the little email address, but you also have that little checkbox that says, yes, I agree to receive future communications about invites or events or discounts. I think that the temptation is to have that checkbox checked off already, whereas in Canada, you need them to check that box off for you and be proactive there. For us at CIPR, what I do as a part of the initial onboarding when a client reaches my desk after it's gone through Peter, who's our sales guy, one of the first questions that I ask is, hey, go over to our email page. Here's a nice landing page where you can click to receive further updates from us. And again, they have to check off a little box.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good point and very subtle. So for all of you, anybody in marketing or responsible for your company's website, double check that, because your developers can easily leave that box by default checked. And that's a pretty cool little subtle point to pay attention to there. Don't leave it checked, leave it unchecked, because the opt-in is that express the user actually going and clicking that to turn that on. Very good point. I guess, that's a great little basic tidbit, but what are some other ones that you may have for us? Any other really good advice for us on CASL compliance and remaining compliant?
Yeah. Oh man, this is,
I know this can go forever.
Tangled web we weave of CASL compliance. But, what I love to do, I always suggest, especially to small, medium-sized businesses, get on something like Constant Contact or MailChimp. They have great little landing page forms that are CASL compliant. So all of these big newsletter management systems have worked to be compliant in whatever region they're in. What I always say at conferences is bring your iPad or have something up on your mobile device where you can just have that landing page, bring it up quickly. Then you're showing them that screen and you're saying, hey, opt into my newsletter. They're doing it right away, as opposed to coming home with that stack. I think, you'll have your 5 prospects from a conference that you've attended that you're like, hey, these are my hits. I got to email them personally. Yeah. But then there's that other 30 that are probably a little bit cold, that probably need to be nurtured, like you said. So if you can get them into that list right away and you have that landing page up and ready to go, then you're saving yourself that admin step when you get home. You're getting them right in that list right away. So that's where, from the business owner perspective, I'd say get that out of the way to save you some time and money. From a just basic CASL side, my quick tips are make sure every email you have sent out is really clear who you are, what your business is. You never want to appear that you're pretending to be something you're not, or pretending the message is something it isn't. Okay. So be clear. Make sure that your address, your phone number is all in that footer. A lot of these custom management systems will make that, you need to do that before you can actually send out the email. But if you're creating something yourself, make sure it's in there. Okay. Make sure that unsubscribe is super easy. So the biggest thing with CASL compliance is, one, getting consent, but then two, and then remember, polite Canadian, making sure that they can get out of the party easily if they don't want to be there anymore. Okay. So making sure they can unsubscribe easily. Okay. And three, making sure that you're constantly going through that list and making sure that the unsubscribes are out, and that you've gotten the right level of consent from people that you've added to that list.
Okay, I love it. So I have one last question about the tools that you brought up, right? So the tools are great, and I work with a lot of clients in trying to implement tools, MailChimp, even HubSpot, for example. But every tool has the ability to allow me to import my own list. Mm-hmm. Okay, so one of the things that I caution my clients on is when you're importing your own list, you need to make sure that you have that opt-in there. What are some steps you have to follow when importing a list? How do you nurture that list or clean that list up to make sure that they're actually really people I'm legally allowed to contact via CASL compliance?
Yeah, so first off, if you have anyone on that list that you believe is a contact that you made before 2014, which is 6 years ago now, which is crazy, so try to think back. But if you have anyone from before 2014, no matter what, you need to be getting their consent again. So throw them in a separate piece, a worksheet in that spreadsheet. Okay. Then there's everyone that, maybe has said you've gotten a business card from, or maybe there's the implied relationship there through business transactions. They're going to need to opt in within the next year. So throw them into that separate worksheet too, and say, okay, these people I know are my contacts and my buddies potentially, or my business colleagues, but I still need to make sure that they're okay with receiving this marketing.
Oh, okay, very good. Cool. All right, awesome. So I'm going to have a million more questions for you, but we're not going to do them all today. That kind of lets people know that we're coming back. I do want to talk about CASL, and I talk about even some of the other compliances that businesses may be worried about. So I'm going to encourage people to send me their questions, and even to send you any questions they may have. Sure. So a couple of things. Tell us, how can people get in touch with you? Your website is?
Yeah, so CIPRcommunications.com. You can reach us at the office at 403-462-1160. And then, I always welcome anyone to email me. So just Christina with a CH at CIPRcommunications.com. Throw up CASL compliance in that email subject so I know how to prioritize you. But I'm always happy to answer those one-off questions, or there's some great checklists and stuff out there. I'm happy to provide links and send them.
Well, that'd be amazing. Thank you very much. So I do encourage anybody seeing this to please reach out to Christina. I absolutely love talking to her. So this is going to happen again for sure, I hope. And thank you very much, Christina.
Anytime.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.